It's 12 o'clock in the East, and that can mean only one thing. It's time for Livewire Connections. So welcome, guys. Welcome to episode 1 of Livewire Connections. I'm Henry Clifford, and I work at Livewire with the best technology people in the business. We're broadcasting live from the home office here in sunny Richmond, Virginia. I want to thank you for joining us today. I know we've got customers, we got employees, first-time callers, long-time listeners on with us today. We know you have a choice how to spend your lunch hour, and we thank you for choosing us. We started this show because our customers have been asking us to do this in person for years. The pandemic has killed traditional opportunities to meet new people, so the idea of doing a show with industry experts and inviting our community became a no-brainer overnight. In the coming months, we'll be hanging out with tech industry experts every month, making sure you got answers to all your burning questions. Speaking of questions, if you have them as we go along, just drop them into the chat. And you notice you came in on mute, so just keep it on mute. That's fine. At the end, we'll have a little Q&A. Cool. So without further ado, let's take it away. I'm honored to be joined in the studio by 3 industry rock stars. I'm talking about none other than JT Pruitt, Casey Clemens, and Nick Delansky. JT is a senior trainer with Sonos. Welcome, JT.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Clifford. Henry, I'm super excited to be here. Good to see everyone, whether you're on camera or off camera. I'm excited to get this conversation going.
Right on, man. We got Casey. Casey Clemens is Director, America's Business at Sonos. Welcome, Casey.
Henry, you know I'm excited to be here.
All right. Fired up, man. Thanks for being here. And Nick Delansky. Nick is Senior Account Manager, Eastern U.S. at Sonos. So welcome, Nick.
Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. I'm up in sunny Cleveland today, so excited to be here with you guys virtually.
Yeah, that's great. Well, clearly, those of you who joined, you're in for a treat because if these guys don't know, it ain't worth knowing regarding Sonos. So let's get into it, and let's just start with just a little background, little bit of what in the world drove you to doing this to begin with. So just kind of go around the horn. Tell us a little bit about your background. How did you come to be doing what you're doing at Sonos? So let's start with you, JT.
Oh man, so my journey at Sonos, I've actually been with Sonos 7 years this week, which is crazy to think about. Casey's been here the whole time. So my journey with Sonos and just tech in general started when I was a little kid. My parents were always the parents that had the newest and latest, greatest tech. So of course I learned at a young age how to wire speakers and about networking and things like that. And it just kind of grew. So I've been with Sonos 7 years. I'm a senior national trainer, and I specifically focus on the custom install side of business. So working with dealers like you, Henry, and getting everybody up to education on everything new with Sonos, whether it's product or even basic networking skills, just trying to help where I can. And I started as a young kid and kind of bright-eyed traveling the world. And now here I am on a podcast streaming on Facebook, which is crazy.
Yeah, you are. Casey, same question.
Similar answer, actually, to what JT was saying. I was very lucky that growing up, my parents were smart enough to put speakers in every room. And this was back in the day where you had to think about that well ahead of putting up drywall. So we had speakers on our back patio. We had speakers in our kitchen. We had speakers in the bathroom. So I grew up knowing the joy of multi-room audio long before it was as easy as it is today. And when I first started in my very young career at 18 years old in consumer electronics, that was the first part of consumer electronics that really just got me to pay a lot of attention was audio. I was a music major actually in college, and so I've had a passion for music. And the idea of being a part of something that makes it so accessible for so many people in so many rooms of the most important part of their life, which is their home, is really just, it's something that drives me every day. As JT mentioned, he's been here for 7 years. I've been here for about 7.5 now, so just a little bit ahead of JT. I am so happy to be working on this side of the business in particular. Love supporting our small business partners, and just get really excited every day I get to come to work and work with people like you, Henry.
Yeah, man. Back at you. How about you, Nick?
So I don't have necessarily the similar experience, but I grew up in a family that had a passion for music. So my mom actually, it still lives somewhere in my dad's garage, but she had a Pioneer cabinet stereo system and always had that thing cranked. So passion for music started young, really got into just musical instruments, playing guitar, if you could not tell by the background. So music has always just been a huge part of my life. I've been doing technology sales for the better part of 15 years. At this point, and over the years, I came to Sonos about 2 years ago at this point, and prior to that, I was selling commercial grade IT infrastructure hardware, and I was doing digital signage. And I always told myself I was an earlier adopter of Sonos, and I was like, man, if a spot ever opens up as Sonos, like that was such a game changing piece of technology. Like Casey said, having audio in every room of your house. I didn't have the funds to do that, to get somebody out to wire it when I had my first place to live. And then Sonos came out, so I didn't necessarily have to, but I was able to experience that joy. So the spot opened up, and actually Casey was my direct manager at that time, and was thankful enough that he offered me a job. So, and then I'm at this part, I'm a senior account manager with Sonos. So I get to work directly with the day-to-day planning and strategic operations with our direct partners like you, Henry, which has been awesome. And I recently have expanded to the territory. So it's been a great journey so far in the short time we've gotten to work together.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, it's great. It's great. I mean, it's always fun to hear everybody's journey. It's always cool to hear music. Always seems to be this common thread as well. Love for the music. So, all right, no pun intended. So let's just level set, right, a little bit. And I'm going to start, JT. I want to ask you this question. If you need to phone a friend, party on. What is Sonos? Why did it start? What's the why? What is Sonos?
Wow,
JT.
Yeah, so great question. And Sonos is a wireless home technology that allows you to fill your home with music. And really, when you think of music, it's such an important part of everyone's life, right? And bringing that into the home is kind of the main goal that we've always had. We had this idea of being able to live better by listening better. And years ago, I'm not sure the exact year, Casey, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong on this one. Our four founders kind of got together and started talking about their collections and their record collections and CDs. And they had this like frustration piece moment of, why is nobody doing this digitally? Like, why can't we just simply make wireless audio a thing? So they put their heads together and they came up with Sonos, which really kind of ventured into our first two products, which were the Connect and Connect Amper, ZP90 and ZP120, if we have some longtime Sonos users here. And the idea of everyone still has those hard physical copies of media, and it's still a great way. But in the early 2000s, things were changing. Whether you were still buying CDs or legally or illegally downloading music, however you were doing it, you were getting music digitally. It kept getting smaller and smaller. So we had this brain trust idea of being able to get that digital media to your home in a simple way.
Yeah, I love it. And it's always fun to hear the history too. I mean, I just picked up a few new things that I didn't even know. That's great. Nick, why would someone buy a Sonos system, and what makes it different? I mean, I could take my iPhone out and then put it in a cereal bowl. Like that's the same thing, right?
Yeah, so oddly enough, it isn't. I know it seems like that might be the solution. So there's honestly a lot of reasons, and we won't get into a ton of the nitty gritty, but I think one of the biggest things that comes synonymous with the Sonos name is the overall quality and the experience that you get. So one of the things that really, in my opinion, sets Sonos apart is the user experience. It's simple to use. You can take that iPhone and use it, and it's your control. You have all of your portfolio available at your fingertips from your choice of streaming services. we have over 100 streaming services worldwide that you can use. And even in the commercial space, we have over 10 commercially licensed streaming partners that you can use too. So you have a multitude of uses that you can do, but really focusing on that sound quality. So one of the things whenever I first started bringing Sonos into my house or talking to anyone about Sonos was, oh, it's Bluetooth. And it's not, it's Wi-Fi. And the reason that you do that is you can have a better compression rate for your music. So Bluetooth will compress an audio file down. You lose some of that fidelity in the audio quality. And that's why Sonos speakers sound so awesome. And then the revolutionary parts that Sonos has done, doing what's called Sonos Net. So everything will use its own mesh network within its own speaker ecosystem. You can add in, we call it the Legos of audio. You get one, you can easily add in more, and they're all playing the same thing at the same time. And you don't really have any sort of lag on your speakers that the human ear can hear. So you don't have any latency problems and issues. But I would say that those are some of the biggest things. The simplicity to use, the quality of sound you get, and then the expansion piece of it too, as you do start outfitting your entire home.
I love it. That's a great answer, man. So Casey, a lot of Sonos owners on the horn here with us today in the studio audience. And every time we ask this question, it's always fun because I always learn something new as well. But what are some tips and tricks for using Sonos that you find useful or customers might find helpful? And again, same phone a friend thing, feel free to, involve the multiverse.
He doesn't need
here.
us. He doesn't need us. He can answer this one.
I've got so many answers, Henry.
Yeah. This is why people logged in today, man. They want to hear, the deal.
Well, first thing I always like to say is that, in terms of also, I like to remind everybody that I was a Sonos owner long before I was a Sonos employee. So I was big into the system years before I ever actually had an interview at Sonos. And I've always joked that it was the easiest interview I've ever had in my entire life, because I remember the last question being, well, why Sonos? Why do you want to work at Sonos? And my answer was, how much time do we have left in the interview? Because at that time, I was already so invested in the ecosystem and I believed so much in all the cool things that you could do. In terms of tips and tricks, a couple of things that I've learned over so many years of using the product. Number one is actually probably a simple thing, but actually is going to be different for everybody on this call, which is I do think you really want to find the right music service for you, the thing that really works for you. And we are very agnostic on our end, right? We don't say you should use Spotify or you should use Apple Music or you should use Tidal. The reason we give people all these options through Sonos is because we don't want to limit people and try to force them to use one type of streaming service in order to get the music that they want to get. And each one of them have their own unique benefits. They have their own unique curations. But my number one tip there is to find one that you love and stick to it. Because the longer you use some of these services with Sonos, the more personalized they become, the more familiar you get with actually being able to discover things through them, the more you're actually able to curate your own playlist and your own collections as well. And I was somebody, especially early on at Sonos, I was jumping between music services every 6 months, and those are the days when Google was launching something and then Apple was launching something. And so part of it was that we wanted to know as much as we could about the services that we were partnering with. But over time, I found that actually by sticking to one service and really getting deep into it, I found that my listening experience got even better over time. The other tips and trick that I, especially if they're working through you, Henry, this is probably already done in all of these systems, but use TruePlay tuning, especially in rooms of your house that are not acoustically built correctly. I would say that the bathroom is probably the number one biggest issue area in the entire home. You think about how much hard surfaces, how much glass, how big your mirror is, all those things are incredibly reflective and actually do mess with your sound quality. I would tell you that the moment of truth for me is when I was actually beta testing TruePlay before we launched it. And I set up a Play 1 at the time in my bathroom, and I'd actually had it in there for 6 months at that point, and I thought it sounded pretty good. And I ran TruePlay, and I was almost embarrassed that I had thought that the previous version sounded good, because all the corrections actually balanced it out in such a way, and all of a sudden the clarity was just 50 to 60% better than what I had been experiencing for the previous 6 months. So I think those are the two big ones I'd stick to. Again, I could go on answering that question for a while. So if I've got more time at the end, I'll add some more, but those are two that stick out to me.
Yeah. So well, let's continue the hackathon. So JT, you got any hacks? Got any tips?
Yeah, I was just going to go off the TruePlay thing. You know, I was here when we launched TruePlay as well, and it was really an eye-opening thing for me. But if you have anyone that likes cool party tricks with different technologies, one that we used to use in the field a lot to kind of demonstrate TruePlay was taking a Tupperware bin or a box or whatever it is and putting the speaker inside the box and TruePlaying it, and then turning it on without TruePlay, and it sounds like it's in a box because it is. And then you turn TruePlay on and it changes everything. And it sounds like it's out of the box. It's a really, really cool kind of demonstration way to show what TruePlay actually does. And it's a really cool party trick. In terms of, Casey talked about music services. That's so important. Being able to stick with one because you can kind of build kind of your ecosystem and what you like to listen to. I remember when I first started with Sonos, I was every 6 months almost changing music services to kind of find that one. And I always kept going back to Spotify. And we know that our customers love using the apps that they use on a daily basis, like Spotify or Tidal or Deezer or whatever it may be. And recently, I say recently, it's been about a year or two or so, we launched direct control. So being able to control Sonos from that platform. So whether it's Spotify or Tidal, hitting the available devices button, it pops up your Sonos system and you send it directly to it. So you think about a way of when you're in your car, when you used to go places, in your car, you're listening to a song, you want to get home, instead of stopping what you're listening to, opening the Sonos app, finding the room, finding the song again, and then hitting play, you can simply just tap a button and send it to whatever room you want. It's just a really quick and easy way to get music started.
That's great, man. How about you, Nick? Any favorite sort of tips or tricks to using Sonos, or favorite things about Sonos?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll echo everything they said. However, mine is super simplistic and it's nothing new, but I find that a lot of people aren't even aware that they can do it. So I leave my phone sitting around to different places, and sometimes I have music started in the room, and I'm like, oh, shoot, my phone is back in my office. If you have a physical speaker out and present, you can press and hold the play pause button for about 3 seconds or so, and it will group whatever the main source of music is, the last thing that you started playing. So if you start your music in one room, you don't have a controller or anything available to quickly add in and group the rooms, hold the play pause button. That has saved me so many times of having to trek back upstairs, grab my phone, go do some changes. Real simple, but I think it's so ingenious that you can do it without having to find essentially the remote or your phone.
I'm actually really glad Nick brought that up. I know some longtime Sonos users, friends of mine who didn't know that for the longest time. And I agree. I think that's a feature that I use every single day. And to Nick's point, it's amazing. You always assume you have your phone on you these days, but it is amazing when, especially if you live in a multi-story house, that, oh, actually I left it up in the bedroom and now I'm down in the basement. Well, I don't want to run upstairs just to add music down here while I'm down here for the next 5-10 minutes. So Nick, I'm glad you called that out.
Anything else where, and I'll go back to you, JT, but anything else, if I'm standing in front of a Sonos product, right? Nick just mentioned press and hold, play, pause. Anything else customers might not know just off the bat that, they can do just sort of by pressing buttons on a standalone speaker or an amplifier?
Yeah, there's two things that kind of come to mind first and foremost, and Nick kind of made me think of one. But first, when you look at all Sonos products now, especially anything in our new line, they all have touch buttons. So not only can you press and hold to group, but you can also swipe left, you can swipe right, which will skip a track or go back. You can turn the volume up and down. But one of the hacks that when Nick was talking that really something I use all the time is actually being able to send TV signal to another room. And what I mean by that is I live in the South. I'm a big football fan. It's not a secret by anybody that works at Sonos that I love my football games, but I also love to cook. And whether it's, in the backyard, with out by my cooker or in the kitchen. And at times I may not be able to see the television of what's going on. So I can simply I can see, press and hold, play, pause, my Sonos Move that's outside with me, or my Sonos 5 that's in the kitchen with my TV. And I get no lag, and I'm able to hear the TV. I can know what's going on. I can control it at individual volumes, but I may not be able to see it, which is great that we have DVRs now because I can run back inside and instant replay is everything. So I got to see a lot of Nickelodeon stuff with the Bears game the other day. It was fantastic. Just by being able to run back inside. It's one of my favorite things of Sonos that doesn't really get enough love.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I just heard you mention swiping, and I'm wondering how many people on the call just wrote that one down too.
Yeah.
I don't think that's very well publicized. So, Nick, favorite Sonos product and why?
Oh man, that's hard. That's hard to choose one. So
I don't ask the easy questions.
I know.
Yeah.
I was
Coming in with the hard ones.
Yeah.
Wasn't emotionally prepared for this. All right, so I will say this. Currently, the Arc, hands down, has been one of my favorite products, and I say this because I've had Play Bar. Me and my wife are both gamers. We both play video games. We have our TV set up in the basement. Mine's on this wall. Hers is over here because we don't like the split screen. You know, you buy a big TV for that. But I recently upgraded before the Arc came out. I upgraded to a newer Sony that had the eARC port. May or may not have known something was coming on the horizon. But hearing Play Bar, having the rear speaker set up in a subwoofer, swapping that out with an Arc, and then upgrading to true 4K and Atmos compatible content was just absolutely mind-blowing. That even my wife, who she gives me a hard time because all I talk about is Sonos. When it's my day off, I'm wearing a Sonos t-shirt and Sonos this, Sonos that. But she's like, this is honestly awesome. Just a picture quality meshed with the audio and feeling like you're fully encompassed. I think is one of the coolest things that we were able to do at the price point that it's at, and the form factor. I got the white Arc. That's what's set up in the basement. It looks super sleek. And I think the biggest thing to hit on that too is, Play Bar was simple. It had an optical cable. You plugged it in, you're good to go. And I think the thing with Arc, making sure, and this is where anybody on the call up Henry and his team, he'll make sure that you guys have what you need to actually experience Atmos. Because just plugging it into a TV, you probably aren't going to get an Atmos signal. You have to have the right hardware for it. You have to have the right subscription if you're using Netflix. I had to upgrade my Netflix account to get this Atmos content, but it's totally worth it once you're fully submersed in that audio and visual just environment. So I would say the Arc. Had you asked me this a while before the Arc came out, I would have said the Move, just because that's a mind-blowing product. But Arc is currently number one in my heart.
Yeah. How about you, Casey? Pick amongst your children.
I think I know where he's going.
Which is your favorite?
Oh, see, and I don't have a problem like Nick does. I know my answer right off the bat. And it's actually because of the flexibility of this product. And it has been since I joined the company, which is Sonos Sub. And the reason I love it so much is that, like I said, the flexibility of being able to add it to so many other products in the Sonos ecosystem. And I think, Henry, you probably know this better than anybody, having been in the industry as long as you have, is that most people assume a sub is just to play loud bass sounds, and that's all it really does. But actually, the best thing that a sub does, especially in a Sonos system where you're talking about a smart subwoofer talking to a smart speaker, is it takes the burden of low frequencies away from those other speakers. So your other speakers actually become more efficient in the room when you add a sub. So even if you're not somebody who wants to hear thumping bass all the time, but you're actually looking for that warmth and that depth of sound that comes from a better spectrum and more of a full frequency response, that's where you're going to get it as the Sonos Sub. I used to use the analogy all the time of that, it was like imagine pushing a boulder up the hill, but then you switch off to a smaller boulder, right? You're clearly going to be able to push that boulder better. And that's exactly like, let's take Arc and Beam and Play Bass and Play Bar off the table, which are usually what it's associated with as a home theater product. But imagine a Sonos 5 now still has the exact same amount of power output for sound, but now it's no longer responsible for putting out those deep frequencies that do actually require a lot of power. So again, the sound quality, the intricacies and the details that come out when you add a sub in any Sonos speaker, to me, just make the biggest difference.
And now I think I just read a few weeks ago that systems can support 2, which in the words of I think Nigel Tufnell and Spinal Tap is, so that's one more, isn't it? So that's good stuff. All right, JT, how about you, man?
Casey kind of stole my thunder. I was gonna say sub, but I'm gonna pivot, and I'm gonna go with another product that is just as versatile, and it's a Sonos Amp. Like, it's just such an iconic product. We came out with the Connect Amp way back when, And then we've changed it over the years. And a couple of years ago, we revamped it, and it's got so much power in a little box. It's crazy. But not only just the amp itself, you can do so much with it. You can use it as a rear configuration with your home theater speakers. So you can have an arc up front with some in ceilings powered by the Sonos amp, or you can have the Sonos amp connected to a pair of towers. I know when we were unveiling the amp to a lot of our partners at the beginning, we actually went and got a brand of speakers that we knew they're very power hungry, like very power hungry, and big tower speakers up front. And then you unveiled this little bitty box, and everybody was like, nah, no way. No way is this going to be enough. And sure enough, as soon as we turned it on, it blew everybody away. And being able to utilize that in a versatile situation as well with a television. Sometimes as a consumer, you want things to kind of fade into the background. Not everybody wants a soundbar, and that is okay. There are still the traditionalists out there that want a clean look, whether it's with in walls or in ceilings. And the amp does have an HDMI port now. So being able to utilize it with a television makes a really simple solution and still gives you great sound.
Yeah, that's, I tell you, the amp is often, I feel like, overlooked.
Yeah.
And it's, it's the baby that gets put in the corner, and meanwhile it's driving. And what's great is there's a lot of people actually in the audience here today who have racks and racks of amps.
Yes.
So they know, that's what those big towers are. So Sonos Radio HD, they're new, they've been announced. I feel like maybe we don't understand everything we could about these. So JT, you want to field that one?
Yeah, I'll start with Sonos Radio first, and kind of the differences. So forever, we've had all of these different music services, whether it's, Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, the list goes on and on and on. However, the most consistently listened to service on any Sonos system is a radio station. It's radio, whether it's TuneIn or iHeart. And we've always often referred to those people as that listen to that as kind of lean back. They put on a station and they just lean back and let it play, where you have the deep dive people that like to get in and find the nitty gritty of the new releases or old releases or whatever it is you're listening to. But just for me, as an example, if I'm working, I'm just throwing on a playlist from a radio station and just letting it ride. I'm not kind of messing with the system and trying to take a deep dive. So Sonos Radio was the brainchild of knowing this information and really taking advantage of what we knew with, all of our partners in the industry when it comes to music themselves. We partner with a lot of musicians, a lot of engineers, to really get the iconic sound that we have. And we really wanted to bring that into perspective for the customer and kind of get an idea of what they're listening to. So Sonos Radio is a Sonos-based radio station, radio service that not only has just basic playlists where you just press play and let it go, but also has deep dive playlist with artists. Tom York was one of the first ones that did this, and it's kind of a look behind the curtain into what he's listening to, right? So what is he listening to on a daily basis? He'll come on and talk about it. We just announced some with Dolly Parton, I believe. There's another one that just got announced. Forgive me, Casey or Nick, if you remember which one it was. And then we launched Sonos Radio back May-ish, roughly. And then a little over a month ago, we just launched Sonos Radio HD. And the difference is this is a paid platform. However, it is the only radio service that streams in high definition, which is still such a big deal to a lot of people. So when you think about other radio services, they stream at a much lower bit rate. Sonos Radio streams at a much higher one. So not only are you getting better quality, but you're also skipping the ads. You're able to skip songs, which is great. And then, of course, down the road in the future, we'll be able to add more to the service itself.
So JT, I heard you mention high definition, bit rate, things like that. Help us decipher that a little bit, Casey. What is JT talking about when he's talking about high definition and the different qualities, and how are we supposed to make sense of it all? It's just kind of confusing.
Yeah, no, and it goes back to something that JT said earlier in the call about, sizes getting smaller and smaller, right? That's why all of our music was becoming digital, because we were able to compress music down to such a small amount of data that we could put, back in the day, it was amazing when you could put 50 songs on a CD if you formatted it correctly, right? And then all of a sudden the iPod came out and you were able to do 5,000 songs. And I was one of those people who owned the earliest version of an iPod, that old silver brick with the actual turn wheel on it. So I remember like that was mind blowing. Like, what do you mean? That's 500 albums. You're putting it on a little brick that's about yay tall. So bitrate, what happened is, back in those days, actually memory was so expensive that you had to compress songs down to such a small amount of information to put that kind of music onto what was available at the time for memory. Well, of course, not only is memory much, much cheaper these days, I'm sure if you go out and try to find yourself a 1 gig USB stick, it probably costs you $8.99 at your local Walgreens. Whereas, when I first started in consumer electronics, that probably cost you $200. It's pretty amazing to see that come down. And then as well as the processing power and our ability to actually take in high rates of information quicker. But all that means, that's just obviously a lot of technical side of it. But to your point, Henry, like, what does it actually mean? Truly, all it means is that you're going to get better clarity out of your music. And so rather than listening to something that is highly compressed, where something might sound thinner is usually the word that a lot of audio people will use when they play something, you'll actually feel like there's a bit more dimension to the music that you're listening to. You will also find in higher bit rates that you will notice that, especially on the higher or lower ends of the spectrum, that those things end up actually having a bit more detail. Those are usually the first parts of music that get cut when you start to compress music, is the high highs and the low lows. Those things become more expansive when you listen to something like on Sonos Radio HD.
Yeah. Also, too, one of the things, sorry, Henry, that I completely forgot to mention, it's not just playlist. We do have access to, I don't know the exact number, tons of different radio stations, local and across the country, as well as podcasts and live sports. So it's kind of the first party radio experience from Sonos.
Yeah, that's great, man. And it's and you guys make it easy. Speaking of easy, so Nick, if you've got a quick little 5 seconds in an elevator to tell somebody the easiest way to access their music with Sonos, right? I mean, the good news is with Sonos, you can use the app and you can use your voice and you can program it into a button on your remote and you can use it everywhere. But like, help us just cut through all that. Like, how do I just want to listen to some music, man. Like, how do I do it quickly?
Yeah, so it's funny you asked that, and you also gave like a awesome plethora of ways that you can do it. So I answer that question typically with a question is, how do you currently listen to your music? And I think that will help you get to what's easiest for you. For me, I do more of a deep dive. So the Sonos app is extremely user friendly. I open it up and I just do a quick search. I recommend to a lot of people who are new to the Sonos experience to really find a radio station or the service that you currently use and love and save it as a favorite. It shows up on your home page. You just open up your Sonos app, you click your favorite station, and it just starts playing. So I think that's one of the easiest. But we talk to a lot of people who will have iPhones and they're used to AirPlay, and use your phone as you currently use it. One of your AirPlay options is your Sonos speakers, and you can get there quickly. The voice experience, if somebody prefers that, we have a lot of products that have the voice integrated. You can do it quickly. If you don't have one of the speakers that has a mic in it, you can definitely talk to Henry and his team, and they can come out and show you how to sync it up with the Echo Dots or the Google Assistants. But my number one recommendation, find a station that you like or a playlist that you like, save it to a favorites, and it's always there at your main screen.
Let me just echo that real quick, that what Nick just said, which is the best possible way to make sure you always have your favorite music at your fingertips is to set up your My Sonos right when you get your system. It's so easy to dive right in and immediately just want to push all the buttons real quick. But if you give yourself 5 to 10 minutes to just set up your My Sonos page, which is the first page that should open up on your Sonos app, it's actually the best way to do it. So when I open mine up, it shows me my recently played music. It shows me my favorite albums that I listen to consistently. It shows me my favorite radio stations that are local here in Chicago, which is where I'm calling in from. It shows the new releases for Spotify, which I like to go and listen to new things as they get released. So if you set that page up appropriately, and again, Henry, I know when your team goes out and does these installations that you guys do that, you set it up to make sure it's the perfect experience for each customer, depending on how they listen to it. That's the best way that you're going to get the quickest access to your favorite music.
And one of the things too that we actually just launched recently in a software update for, and this is not just for new customers, but it's also existing customers, is Auto Music Discovery Update. And what that means is the Sonos app is actually going to search your phone for those types of music services that you listen to. So for example, if you have, if Spotify is your main source, but maybe you've got Amazon Prime or a Deezer, but you haven't added it to Sonos, when you open the Sonos app, it's actually going to ask you, hey, I saw that you have Amazon Music on your phone. Do you want to import that into Sonos as well? And it's so not only this is all about the setup process, right? So when you're done setting up that player, before you get music playing, we're gonna take a look to see, hey, what are you listening to? And to kind of echo these guys, the My Sonos page is so important. Just for like in my everyday life, my wife would just rather, she's a lean back listener, so she would rather be able to go into the My Sonos page and just click a button versus trying to, search for what she wants to listen to.
Yeah, I love it. I love talking about simplicity, man. That's what it's all about. So let's go out. Let's go to studio audience. We've got some questions. So Karen Wise writes, does Sonos see the wired speakers becoming obsolete? Is the trend towards all wireless speakers, Casey?
No, they're not going to become obsolete. It's personal preference. In fact, we do a lot of work with designers and architects who their number one priority, of course, is to hide sound as much as possible. Right? They actually, you can imagine, you go spend thousands of dollars on a kitchen renovation. The last thing you want to do is immediately put a speaker on your countertop. Right? You actually want that music to be in the room, but you don't want it to be pulling away from the visual elements of your room. So no, we don't see it going away. And in fact, that's actually why we spent a lot of time and resources revamping not only our Sonos Amp, but also our Sonos Port, which can feed into a traditional AV receiver or traditional amplifier that can work with wired speakers. It's also the reason that we partnered with Sonance to create our Sonos by Sonance line of architectural speakers. So we do make a pair of in-ceiling, a pair of in-wall, and a pair of outdoor speakers as well. So really at the end of the day, it kind of aligns with our music philosophy in terms of streaming services, which is we're agnostic, right? We simply want to give the best options that are out there and allow you to create the perfect configuration for yourself. And for some people, that it will always be either hiding speakers in a ceiling or hiding speakers in a wall so that they have that minimalist approach to the aesthetic of their room.
Yeah. Oh, that was for you, Karen. Thank you for asking that. Donald Tate asks, he writes, this is around, it sounds like it's around TV watching. So Nick, this one's for you. Why do some programs have superior audio compared to others on the same channel? For example, he's watching a program on Netflix the other night, and as part of the show, they inserted a song from the 60s and it just came alive. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. It was awesome. On the same show, other songs didn't sound as alive. Another program that seems to offer excellent audio is also on Netflix, and it's a series on Formula One racing. It sounds like the cars are in our family room. What is going on, Nick?
So great question. Also, if you're talking about F1 Drive to Survive, that is a fantastic show, and I recommend everyone watch it on Netflix. So that actually comes down to, in most cases, the audio mixing that is done. It's nothing necessarily to do with your player. If you've experienced a TV itself before, a sound bar or any sort of amplified audio, and you have like those commercials that come on when you're watching like television, and it just like sounds like your TV is about to explode because it's cranked so far up. It has a lot to do with the mixing, and that's one of the things that unfortunately is a little bit out of your control and our control, but it's one of those things that you have to live with, and hopefully people will start investing more in their audio engineering in terms of who mixes it and produces it and pushes it out. I will say one of the things that you can have help in that regard with Sonos, there are 2 settings specifically for TV watching. When you open up your app, they will only show up when an audio signal is detected from a television. One looks like a little text bubble, and that is speech enhancement. So that will actually give you more clarity for vocals and audio. A lot of times, one of the biggest complaints people have watching shows is I can't hear what the people are saying, and that will actually amp it up out of the center channel for audio. And the second, it just looks like a little moon, and that's called night mode. You turn that on, and it actually will help subdue some of the bass or more of the low end frequencies that would rattle your house, or just kind of be more of a disturbance if it's nighttime, or if you live in a townhouse condo, you have neighbors, things like that, you're trying to be aware. But it will help kind of balance out some of those pain points with television watching. You don't experience that with audio, because with music and audio and streaming services, that's literally all it is a listening experience. There's no visuals to really tie in and mix in together. So JT or Casey, if you have more thoughts and opinions.
I would like to kind of go off on the not go off, but add on to the television watching experience when it comes to different types of audio mixing. One of the things that is recent within the past couple of years, and every TV manufacturer, even Sonos, anybody that uses HDMI has to have a certified HDMI chip now. So HDMI certification is relatively new to the industry. Before, it was kind of the Wild Wild West and everybody kind of did their own thing. Now we have the certification that is supposed to help a lot of that stuff down the line. So keep your audio all the same, keep your video all the same, things like that. So hopefully, as you continue to upgrade your sources and all that stuff down the road, a lot of that stuff it'll start to minimize.
Hey, Henry, one other thing to probably add into that question too is that, it's speaking to what Nick was talking about earlier about it's all about how good the actual source is, right? This has always been true with audio, is depending on how good the source material is also going to be, it's going to determine how good the audio output is from whatever you're listening to. But what I will say is, if you ever feel like you're going crazy and trying to understand why some things sound better than others, there's actually a trick that you can use in your Sonos app for that. So when you're watching something on any of our sound bars, whether it be the Arc, the Play Bar, the Play Bass, or the Beam, you can actually go into your About My Sonos settings, and what it will show you is the actual output that you're receiving. And so generally there's a couple of things. If you see stereo, it means that whatever you're listening to actually isn't even giving you a surround sound signal. So happens all the time where someone will say, well, I was watching something, but nothing was coming out of my rear speakers. What they'll find out is actually whatever they were watching, or maybe a TV setting, wasn't allowing it to actually send a surround sound signal. And then there's basically a hierarchy from there. It goes stereo to Dolby 5.1 to Dolby Digital plus 5.1 to Dolby Atmos. And each time you get a different one of those levels, you actually are going to get more clarity, and you're going to hear more of those details out of your TV sound.
That's great. That's awesome. I see folks scribbling like crazy, writing things down. So I knew that this would be a font of awesomeness today. So next question comes to us from a longtime Livewire customer. He's a great friend of the program, Mr. Ronnie Highs. Hi, Ronnie. Hey, man. So he said at some point he'd like to discuss gradually moving his Connect amps to the newer version. And are there some incentives? Like, first of all, so what's he talking about? Amps to the newer version? I mean, what do you mean? I mean, I bought an amp, I got an amp. Like, what do you mean newer version? But so I don't know, JT.
Yeah, I'll start, and I'll probably throw it over to Casey here in a second too, just to kind of give a little more insight. So the Connect amp and any Sonos product for that matter, not only do they power speakers and they are speakers, but there's also a lot of software inside of them as well. And think of them as mini computers. Just for an example, one of the big things that we always talked about with Playbar specifically is it did 21 million calculations per second to get the proper audio, which is crazy to think about in a sound bar. But we do a really good job of marrying hardware and software together to keep our products going for so long. And if you think about technology specifically, I think in the 7 years that I've been with Sonos, I've had 4 laptops, right? Like things just change, cell phones change. And it goes the same with us. So going back to what Casey was talking about with memory, even with our products, they have memory inside of them. And in 2005, 6, 7, memory was a little bit more expensive and a little bit harder to come by. Now in 2019, 2020, 2021, it's a little bit different. So yes, we do run out of memory. It's just part of the software that kind of goes into it. Now, when the Sonos Amp came out, we have a ton of software, right? Things have changed, and then we've introduced a program that I'll let Casey kind of talk about in the trade up.
See, JT, you're much nicer than me, because I was going to pose this question right back to Henry, which is, Henry, I mean, like, how would you help somebody upgrade from the old Connect amps to the Sonos amps? It feels like there's a program out there that would at least ease the pain a
If
little bit.
only. Yeah, tell us all about it, Casey.
Yeah, so I will answer that, which is, hey, one of the things to JT's point is that, so eventually you have a finite amount of space that you can work with in any product. And mind you, the Connect amp to Sonos amp was more than simply just getting a better CPU inside of it. Obviously, the higher quality amplifier is definitely more power output, more configuration options, as JT mentioned earlier, and some of the home theater stuff that we can do, as well as adding things as rears, not just as their standalone home theater, but adding to an arc or a beam or a play bar. But with this transition, one thing we realized when we went from our S1 app, which is our legacy app, to our S2 app, we did so much gymnastics in order to continue to update a very, very, very old ecosystem on the S1 app. Eventually, we pushed it to its limit, which is why we had to transition over to our new Sonos S2 app. But one of the things that we did when we rolled this out was we realized, hey, there's a lot of legacy customers out there who have been loyal Sonos customers for a long time, who love the product, who love the experience, and we don't want to feel like we are just making them go out and buy all new products at face value. So we actually introduced the dealer upgrade program, which we launched with dealers like Henry about 18 months ago. It feels like it was not that long ago, but it has been that long. And what that allows you to do is that if you do have one of these older products, you can simply basically show proof of that product at this point, and dealers like Henry can actually offer you 30% off on the replacement Sonos amps. So a little bit easier to handle, especially if you are multiplying that of 3 or 4 or 5 amps, which can obviously add up in cost. But we wanted to reduce the burden of that, because we definitely want people who have loved using Sonos for years and years and years to continue to do so. And, we wanted to show that loyalty pays off a little bit in terms of using our product for as long as you have. So a big thank you for everyone who does have those old Connect amps. And of course, if you do want to upgrade them, I know a guy who can help you out there.
One of the things too, to go off of S1 and S2 and kind of, Casey mentioned we kind of ran out of room under the hood. If you think of S1 and S2, I want you to think of it like a water hose and a fire hose. The water hose being S1, the fire hose being S2, right? The water hose can only take so much water. It can't get any more water through it, where the fire hose can have a giant blast of water or even just a stream. So with the S2 app, obviously we've kind of already made some software improvements, like adding dual sub support, also adding Sonos Radio HD. And this is going to be a platform for everything in the next coming years.
Yeah, that's great. So Ronnie, I guess there you go. And Ronnie says in his question, he'll be calling Marshall. So I'm sure Marshall will appreciate hearing from you, man. So thank you for the question, Ronnie. So let's go to Rich Roddick, another great friend of the program, one of the partners in Fahrenheit. So Rich wants to know, hey, I have this system. It's got a big amplifier. It's got speakers in it. He loves Sonos. Does he have to rip everything out and rewire and put in new speaker? I mean, how does he get from A to B? Nick, how does he get there?
Well, as JT really excitedly jumped in and said, no, you do not have to. And that's kind of the beauty of the Sonos ecosystem. And I think it ties into that first question around the conversation of, do we see wired speakers going away? And the answer is absolutely not. There's great systems out there like that. And this would be that situation where Henry's going to come out with the port. It's a smaller box, and that's going to tie in and integrate into your existing system. So benefits of that, you have your existing system. You don't have to rerun any sort of configuration, wires, let it live as it lives. And then it can talk to every other piece of Sonos device that you have out in the house. So you have a Sonos soundbar, you have a Sonos 5, you have a Sonos 1, whatever it may be, it will all interlink, and you get that Sonos experience with your non-Sonos product all through the port. And that's, if you've been around for a while, that was formerly known as the Connect.
Yeah.
One of the new features of the port too, just to make it a little bit easier, something that we added was a 12-volt trigger. So my parents, not the best in technology, but they do have a hardwired system and a Connect. Used to have a Connect, and it was really tough for my dad to turn the receiver on, find the input, go open his Sonos app, find the Eagles, hit the room, and then hit play. With the new port and the 12-volt trigger, he can simply open the Sonos app, hit play. It will turn the receiver on, and if the receiver has auto sensing, it'll automatically change that receiver over to the right input, which is just magic.
That's great. So this has been great today. So again, guys, we're here for you. Members of our community are in the audience. So we've got Livewire employees on the horn. We've got we've got longtime customers. We've got folks from out there in the interweb. So if you have a question, drop it into the chat, or if you want to, just unmute right now and ask your question. So the trade up program is funny. Brad Camp, who's been with Livewire a long time, who runs our residential and commercial side. Hey, Brad. Brad, do you just want to chip in on what you just said there in the chat?
Yeah, this is for the guys at Sonos. So the trade up program, it might be worth noting to the members on this call, what products can be traded in? Can it be, does it like products only? Can I only do a older ZP90 or Connect for a port, or is there something else that our guests should know?
So it does not need to be like for like. So for instance, if you have an older Zone Player 90, but you're actually going to get rid of that as well as the receivers attached to and just simplify it down to a Sonos Amp, you can absolutely apply that discount to a Sonos Amp. What we've found is that most people will go directly one up, right? So usually a Connect does become a port, or a Connect amp becomes a Sonos amp, but there's no restrictions there if you'd like to apply that discount to a totally different product. In fact, we've seen people come in, bring in an old Connect amp and actually trade it in for an ARC instead and get 30% off of that. So it's just really whatever your needs are. As long as you've got one of those older products, it does actually qualify you for that discount. Worth noting that there are two different discounts. So for our oldest products, the Connects, the Connect amps, as well as the Play 5 Gen 1, the first ever Play 5 we did, those all qualify you for a 30% off discount. If you have any other Sonos product that we no longer sell out in the market, so that could be a Play Bar, a Play 1, a Play 3, Play 5 Gen 2, anything that we don't currently actively sell, it does actually apply for a 15% upgrade discount if you'd like to upgrade those products as well. So great question, Brad.
Awesome.
I think worth noting on that front too, if you have one of those products that works within the S2 ecosystem, so the Play 1s, the Play 3s, the Play Bars, literally any of those, they will continue to work. So think of it as we're just kind of giving you another credit for being a loyal customer. You can transact with Henry, who can get you the 15% off. He just needs a serial number, and that speaker can continue to live. So I have a Play 3 that used to be my office speaker. And I was able to use that to get an upgrade to a new 5 because I wanted a second one for my turntable. And that Play 3 is now in the garage. So it still works with everything. I've got a cool speaker out in the garage, and then I upgraded my system internally too. So just worth noting, it will still work. The 30% are the ones that won't migrate over to the new S2 app.
Now, Nick, do those have to be on separate Sonos systems? Or can you simply trade up a Play 3 for a new Sonos product and keep the Play 3 in that same system?
Yeah, you can keep the Play 3 in the same S2 system. So it's get the trade up credit. If you're just feeling the itch, you want to expand on your audio system, go ahead and do it. You can only redeem it once. It is tracked by serial number, which is why it's needed. But you can do that, use it. And yeah, keep enjoying your Sonos with a new speaker as well as the old one.
So it's more like a loyalty discount, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, that's great. Brad, thanks for clarifying. And it's all good stuff. So we have time for one more. So Rich Ronick asks, this might be something we have to take offline, but we'll give it a try. So He says, any tricks getting a Play One to recognize a new Wi-Fi network? He upgraded to a mesh network and he can't seem to get his Play One to find the network. He's watched the help videos, even asked his 20-year-old tech-savvy twin boys to try. No luck. Any advice, JT?
Yeah, for sure. The simplest way is to kind of start from scratch. And what I mean by that is do a factory reset on that Play One. If you unplug it from the wall, hold down the play pause button and the volume up button at the same time, plug it back in. The light's going to turn on. Wait for that light to turn orange. It'll wipe the Wi-Fi credentials all out. And then you can just go through your reset up. Now, the downfall to that is you're probably going to lose anything that you have in your My Sonos system. The secondary option is to hardwire for just a moment the Play One to the network, open the Sonos app and go into settings. And then I'm trying to figure out, I believe it's settings and then network. I believe I'm pulling up my app as I'm walking through here. Go to settings, system, and then click on network. And then from there, you can actually change your Wi-Fi credentials inside of the Sonos app. But the Play One does need to be hardwired for a temporary piece just so it can recognize that network.
Cool. And failing all that, Rich, if you get tired of screwing around with it, you can always go to our website, click a button, and a Livewire tech will magically show up and fix it. So, this has been an amazing hour of conversation, of Q&A, and just thank you so much to our community for joining us, our employees, our customers. Thank you to Ashley Ray from Be Emergent Social Media for being in the sound booth, making sure that everything ran smoothly and made me look like I halfway knew what I was doing. Big shout out to my mom. My mom's here, Susan Clifford. Great to see you, Ma. And big thanks to Casey Clemens. Big thanks to Nick Delansky. Big thanks to JT Pruitt. I'll just go around the horn quickly, give you guys a chance to just sort of kind of, final thoughts, one word close kind of deal. So Casey.
I'll also give kudos to Ashley. I mean, she clearly had to work some magic to make you look so competent today, Henry.
Yeah, it takes a village, Casey.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I appreciate everyone jumping on today. Tons of fun, really good conversation. And, if we can be of any other service in the future, we hope to be.
Cool. And Nick?
Yeah, again, thanks for putting this together and having us be part of this. This has been awesome. And thanks everyone who joined in today. Whether you've been a longtime Sonos user or brand new, we honestly appreciate it. Every user is really awesome, and we are glad that you're enjoying the experience. And we hope to see you continue to grow your system and definitely work with Henry along the way. They're an awesome platinum partner of ours. It's been a platinum partner for since we started doing partners, right, Henry? It's been a long time. So we appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, Nick. And JT.
I will close us out. Thanks for having us once again. It's always so fun to get on and talk about the product, even though I talk about the product every single day. But as you can tell from myself, Casey, and Nick, when we start talking about tips and tricks, we all get a little excited and, kind of reinvigorates our love for the brand. Once again, I'm really excited to not only do this, but also looking forward to the next one when we get to come back.
For the entire Livewire community, this is Henry Clifford broadcasting live from the home office in Richmond, Virginia. If you want to find us online, we're at Get Livewire, on social, on the web at getlivewire.com. Book us, come out. It's like ordering a pizza. It's easy. So we'll see you next month, where we'll have alarm.com on to answer all your fun questions. So with that, signing off, and have a pleasant rest of your day.